Hi there guys, it's Kirsty here from My Home Truths. Here a little bit late again this morning. I had to head out and do a few things before tuning in, but I'm here today to share another challenge, and this week's challenge is that of travelling as an autism family. I'm prompted to talk about this today because on the weekend I presented at a Travel with Kids Expo here in Newcastle, and I talked about 10 strategies that we use, we've used in the past as an autism family to travel. And in talking to a few families there, and obviously anecdotally, and talking to a lot of others in different forums, travelling and autism don't necessarily mix together. And travelling as an autism family is not something that a lot of people think is possible for them or think is something that they can do. And I get that because it's hard when you can't even control how your family responds and deals with everyday challenges. I know that we're struggling at the moment with Gilbert and his behaviour, but I know that I can take him travelling, and there are some strategies that we can use that will help him, and that helps Matilda as well. And I'm hoping I can share some of them with you today. But I know this is something that's probably not for everybody. Some people will just go, oh my God, I just can't even cope, I can't do it. The purpose is just to let you know that it is possible. And I think every family deserves to travel. Every family deserves the chance and the opportunity to enjoy life as a family, a full life as a family. And so I use the hashtag on the weekend of live life, because we should be able to live life regardless of the diagnosis of our kids. So I just wanted to share the 10 strategies I shared on the weekend. I'm actually going to be writing a post about this. It should be live tomorrow. And I'd love to hear your thoughts if you've been able to travel. What tips do you use? And if you haven't been able to travel, whether this sort of information helps you or thinks that maybe, makes you think that it might be possible. So that's what I wanted to do with today. But the first strategy I want to talk about is starting small. And we started just staying overnight with our parents and parents-in-law. And that's probably the best way to do it if you've got family and friends you can stay with. Just stay overnight with them. See what the biggest stresses and the challenges are for your kids. Is it that, what elements of being away from home or being in an unfamiliar place seem to worry them the most? And so starting small gives you that very easy, risk-free way of seeing potentially what the biggest issues would be if you did want to go a bit further afield. If you don't have family or friends that you can stay with, you can always just go and stay at a motel or a hotel, caravan park, whatever, close to home. So there are opportunities. Even if you just wanted to stay overnight somewhere, you're still not investing a lot of money, but it's a way for you to have a look and see, okay, what are the big issues? What do we need to look at as a family to make sure that we can travel, and that we can actually mitigate some of the issues here. And the other thing you can then go from there is to go and try a caravan park. That's what we moved to. We've had great holidays at Halliday's Point, up past Foster, Harrington, Foster, places like that. They're only 2 hours or so away from home. So they're long enough for us to get away, but short enough that we can get back home if we need to. So that's always a good option. And caravan parks are really good because if you stay in a cabin, you've got that home-like environment, so you can cook and things like that. But you've also got access to the park amenities. So, and park amenities, some of them can be really good sensory-wise and for anxiety. My son loves water and loves the pool. So if we go on holidays, I know we're cool, and we did it in the last holidays. We went up to Harrington, and he just went in the pool twice a day, and he was, that really helped him out. So that's a really good option if you're looking to start small. The other thing you should do is do your research. So you should have a look. You should first off work out what are your negotiable and non-negotiable needs for a holiday. So you need to know what do you need to have in place. You look at your daily life and what you do, normally, what you need to have in place that you would need on a holiday as well. And that could be you need extra security because your child's a runner. You might need to know that there's, password, keyed locks and things like that. You might need to look at technology like GPS or QR or Bluetooth tracking that you can get these days to keep an eye on the location of your child should they run away. You might have to have a look at whether if you've got sensory issues with food or allergies or intolerances, whether you have some place where you can cook for yourself. And it could be that you have a companion animal that has to come with you, and you need to find a place that you can take them as well. So just have a think about those and really make a list of negotiable and non-negotiable items, and don't compromise on the non-negotiables, because you're just going to shoot yourself in the foot from the beginning if you do that. The next thing that I would recommend is to use social stories. This has been single-handedly the most successful strategy we've used for travelling as an autism family. I'll link to the New Zealand social story that we used, and essentially it's just a narrative of what is expected to happen on the holiday. It's a way of explaining who your child might talk to, what their expected behaviour should be. Just reiterates and gives them a little bit of control and understanding of what's about to happen. And so travel and holidays actually lend themselves really good for this, because you can actually use, you can look at it as a visual itinerary. So I like putting maps in, putting in sort of each day, so you can do it in a calendar view, or you could just do it as a list. We do it as a list, our kids are a bit older. And then it's just putting photos in and putting as much information in as you feel necessary for your child to give them as much comfort and reassurance of what's about to happen. And I must say that that's single-handedly been the most successful strategy we've used along the way. One of the things you probably should do is look for sensory threats and identify wherever you're intending to go, if there's anything there that could actually, be of concern to your child or set them off. So, for instance, when we went to New Zealand, we wanted to go to Rotorua to have a look at all the mud pools and the thermal energy that's coming out of the earth. My son doesn't like smell. He has real big issues with and gets overwhelmed with different smells in the environment. We knew this was going to be difficult for him. So instead of staying at Rotorua, where he wouldn't be able to escape from that, we stayed at Taupo, which was an hour away, and we drove in. So it's just trying to have an understanding of what could your children face that might concern them or might actually affect them or overwhelm them, and try and work out ways to deal with that. And so that comes down to also taking noise-cancelling headphones on planes and earmuffs if needed to help with noise, bringing weighted items, fidget toys, anything that you feel is necessary to assist them in keeping them calm, but obviously trying to avoid if possible, but then mitigate any sensory threats that you might encounter along the holiday is really important too. Incorporating special interests is really important. Special interests often get a bad rap because they're seen to be obsessive, they interfere in daily life, that's part of the diagnostic criteria, and it can be difficult because they can actually be a source of pain and suffering rather than a source sort of a joy. But we have to remember a special interest is really important to our kids because it gives them a sense of control, gives them a sense of calm. It's something they can get into and look at and feel a sense of, I suppose, they can be centred by this special interest. So remember that when on holidays, if you can incorporate it in. My son's into payphones, so there's payphones everywhere, thank goodness. So he found, particularly in New Zealand when he was very overwhelmed for our first overseas trip, he actually found that a payphone comforted him. He felt better. So when we came back home, we had an issue for a while, he associated payphones with a sense of comfort and peace. So, just remember that, that can actually, you can use that to your advantage in the holiday. And it can also be a really powerful motivator for your kids too. So we've often booked activities and destinations based on that. So when we went to, another interest of my son's is observatories in space. So we went to Carter Observatory in Wellington, and we went to the Cape Canaveral Kennedy Space Centre when we were in Orlando. So if you can build those in, it's really important. It gives them something of their own to look forward to, but it's also a really powerful motivator, and it can actually give them a sense of peace and and help cut through some of that anxiety. The other thing I would do is be honest with the diagnosis. I wouldn't try to hide it. I know it's tempting, you don't want to be in trouble, or you don't want other people to know, you just want to sort of fly under the radar and do what you can. But I would be completely honest with the diagnosis, and I would tell everyone up front, if you use a travel agent, airline, cruise line, booking office, accommodation, anyone who has tours, attractions, anyone who has anything to do with your child, I would certainly let them know along the way, because you need that. If you don't tell anybody about the diagnosis and any difficulties that your child might have, you might find that you're not going to be able to access the support that you are entitled to. The other thing is, if you want to access certain accommodations, like the Disability Access Services card at Walt Disney World, which we were able to use, you may need to provide proof of a diagnosis. So don't be scared of it. Use it to your advantage. Be proactive and help your child. And the best way to do that is to be honest. And I must say, in all the times that we've travelled, I've never ever felt victimised or harassed or have been a pain in any way for sharing that. I think being honest up front, and people will help you if they can. They really will. The other thing to keep in mind is to plan contingencies. You need to plan contingencies for any travel. This goes for anything, let alone travelling as an autism family. But if you're like me, you're probably used to having plans A through to Z most of the time anyway on a daily basis. So being prepared for things to go wrong. Weather will change things. If you're going to a theme park or if you're going on a tour, if there's bad weather, you know, the tour might be cancelled, or there might be certain parts of that tour you can't do anymore. Certain rides might be out of action at parks. There might be maintenance. You might find that, you know, tour schedules change. There's so many things that can go wrong. So be prepared for that. If something happens, do it. We had the issue in New Zealand, a tour that we were booked on in the morning, didn't have record of us. They couldn't fit us in. They had to fit us in the afternoon instead. So we then had to sort of, that went off, you know, our visual itinerary didn't match that. We then had to explain to the kids, okay, we're actually going to have a walk around and explore Auckland now instead of going on this tour, and we'll go on this tour this afternoon. So we had to think on our feet and just be prepared that things might go wrong. And look, lots of things in the first 24 hours of that trip. I'll have to share that one day. It was, yeah, that really tested the powers of perseverance. Identify escape routes if you know, are in parks or in a lot of, you know, tourist places. Just make sure, you know, always be aware of where you are, and if something happens, a way that you can sort of get out of there quickly and you can help your child and get them to a quiet spot. And I think that's really important. That's always helped us. Minimising travel and movement's another one, and this might be counterintuitive since I'm telling you to go travelling. But what I mean by that is things like when we went to New Zealand, we decided to base ourselves in a few cities. We didn't try and just do a road trip for the whole, you know, every day go somewhere different. So we based ourselves for 3 nights in Auckland, 3 nights in Taupo. We did have a single night in Napier, and then we had 3 nights in Wellington. And what that gave our children was the ability to, you know, the most that they were travelling in one day was like 5 hours. So I minimised sort of the travel sort of stress. It minimised that movement, and that it gave them a sense of, you know, of being somewhere, based somewhere for a few nights. So again, they got them used to the location. They didn't feel like they were being rushed off, and it really does minimise a lot of that that stress and strain. So we employed the same thing. We went to America. We stayed in LA for a couple of nights, but we based ourselves in Orlando for 2 weeks, and then we went on a cruise for a week. So we sort of basically zoned the holiday. So it was really good from a point of view. It gave some, I suppose, some boundaries, and allowed our kids to sort of understand what was going on. And we could sort of look at each piece individually and say, okay, this is our LA bit, and this is our Orlando bit, and this is our cruise bit. And it really did help them sort of make sense of it. And we could sort of tackle each one in turn. It didn't look like one big thing. So if you're looking at travelling, maybe don't go for a road trip where you're going to be travelling 10 hours a day, you know, for 5 days in a row. Have a think about if you are doing something that's going to require multiple stops, how you can actually make it a bit easier on yourself and your kids too. Which sort of leads into the next one, which is not overloading yourself. And I really do advocate for planning for, say, half days at theme parks. And we wrote a post about this earlier this year. We went up to Movie World and Dream World and all those places on the Gold Coast. We found that if we went in the morning, we'd come home or go back to the place, the resort at night, in the afternoon and sort of have a relax. And the same went, we might have an easy morning and then go in the afternoon. We found this way it minimised the stress on our kids. It meant that they were only having, say, 3-4 hours sort of in that environment where they were feeling very much overstimulated by the rides and the noise and the crowds and all that sort of stuff. Because you can get park hopper, multi-day passes, things like that, which means that you can do that. You're not losing money. You're going and still having a fun time, but you're going to do it in a slightly different way, and in a way that will ensure that you miss the chance of meltdown. You know, that you're going to get them back to a sense of calm better than trying to go through the whole day. So I definitely do that. The other thing is build downtime into your itinerary. Don't plan that you'll be doing something every day, all day, every day, and lead by example. You might go and have some quiet time at the hotel room. Don't bustle about and pack things and do stuff. Sit down and read yourself. Lead by example, and because you need the rest as much as your kids, because the stress of travelling is real, particularly if you're worried the whole time about how your children's coping. It can get it can get it can get under your skin and can get you feeling quite stressed out. So having a rest yourself is a really good idea. And the last thing that I would recommend is to involve your kids in the planning. So at the moment we've got two big maps on our kitchen wall, and we're getting the kids to actually have a look, and if there's a location they want to go to, because we're going to plan a big tour back in 2020, they can, stick a pin in it, we'll get a picture, and then that way they have a chance, they have some saying where we're going to go and what we're going to do. So to stop the overwhelm, particularly in the initial stages, what I would do is give your child maybe two choices. Say, we might do this and this, what do you think? Try and involve them in that way. Get them to see the positives of what you're going to do. And that's why bringing in their special interests and trying to minimise the sensory stuff and showing them that you have solutions to all the questions that they might have is a really good way of dealing with it and bring them on board. You can show them videos, you can get books in the library, that sort of thing. So I would definitely involve them where you can, depending on their age and depending on sort of, how you know your child best. But I know that, even though Gilbert, you'll ask him even now he's been on holidays, he doesn't see the point of going anymore because we've been on holidays. Why can't we just stay at home? Home's great. I love home. Where we're trying to instill in him that understanding the world's a big place. There's lots of places to see. He can experience new and, wonderful things. And that's why we give him that choice. So even though he might prefer to stay at home, we give him a choice of location. He then sort of gets bought into it, even though he's sort of against it in his mind. So it's quite an effective strategy if you want to do it that way. So if you're looking at travel as an autism family, that's some information you can have. As I said, there'll be a post tomorrow with those details. And also, and I've said this before, but I have written a book, I've written an ebook about travelling as an autism family, and it's in the process of getting finalised. I'm hoping it'll be ready end of the year, start of next year. So I'll be putting some more information and giving you some idea of what's going to be in that. If you're interested in finding out about it, please actually subscribe to my email list. You can get that, I think there's a subscribe button on Facebook up the top here, so feel free to do that, or go over to the blog page and subscribe through there, because it will be really the people who are on the mailing list will find out first about the release and all the details, and we'll probably get some bonuses and some other good stuff and information along the way. So, make sure that, you're on the email list if you're interested in finding out more, because I'd love to be able to sort of keep you in the loop and let you know exactly what's going on. So there you go, travelling as an autism family, that's the challenge for this week. I hope some of these strategies have helped you, or at least making you think it might be a possibility for you. But please let me know in the comments if you have any other strategies you use. That's just 10, there's heaps of others that I've got, but they're just sort of 10 of the biggest ones that I thought would be most relevant. And even if travel isn't a challenge for you, it's something you're not considering at the moment, let me know what your challenge is for the week, because I'd love to be able to help you and for you to help me, and for us all to hopefully help each other so that we can get through this special needs parenting life with a little bit more sort of sanity and support and help and understanding. So thank you once again, and I will talk to you next time.